The NBA schedule has been released. Of course, it's always fun to see the kind of matchups and key games that will be fun to watch going into the 25-26 season. I'll have a video out highlighting some of the key games that I'm going to be looking out for. Maybe even give some record predictions based on the strength of schedule to start the season, which is not going to be great, but all that good stuff. But in this video, I actually wanted to talk about Coby White because yes, all the talk in this dead of the offseason period has been centered around Josh Giddey and his impending contract extension, which, side note, I'm sure some of you saw Modest's cryptic message on Instagram where he mentioned Josh Giddey with a pen and paper emoji hinting at the fact that perhaps they are close to signing a deal. But regardless, we've spent a good portion of the summer talking about Josh Giddey, and I feel not enough is being talked about Coby White, who, just like Giddey, closed out the season on his best stretch of his career post All-Star break, and even though Coby is not a free agent this summer, he will be one next year. And based on his improved play, the fact that he's getting some recognition throughout the league, he is going to get paid a lot more than his current contract. Like quite possibly getting a larger annual amount in his next deal than he did combined for the total 3-year, $33 million extension he signed for in 2023. So in this video, we're going to be talking about Coby's improved play over the course of these past 2 seasons, how much we expect for him to command on the open market as a free agent next summer, and what it means for the Bulls and how they should be approaching it. So what's going on, everyone? You're listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Now, when Coby White signed that 3-year, $33 million extension as a restricted free agent, coming off an okay season in 22-23, a season in which he mainly came off the bench for most of the year, played the lowest amount of minutes of his career, and as such saw career lows across all statistical categories. But he was a good scoring spark for the Bulls coming off the bench, but the biggest thing that was holding Coby back was his level of inconsistent play, where you would see him go off for 25 or 30 points one night on insane efficiency to then scoring 2 points the next night, shooting 1 for 10. His play, his performance was a bit all over the place, and because of that, the Bulls got him on a very cheap deal, a very team-friendly deal, because despite his age only being 22 at the time, his potential for upside, the Bulls were still cautious about handing over some massive contract to him based on what they had seen thus far of his career. Now, fast forward, going into the 23-24 season, the Bulls signed Jevon Carter to match the Bulls' veteran timeline with DeMar, Zach, and Vucevic, and most people thought Carter would be the Bulls' starting point guard for that upcoming season. But in training camp, Coby wowed the coaching staff with his improved handles, his improved passing, decision-making, speed of getting to the basket, and so they opted to start Coby White. And even though the Bulls had 3 primary scorers already in DeMar, Zach, and Vucevic, Coby would still go on to have his most productive and best season yet, taking a massive jump in his scoring and offensive efficiency, went from averaging less than 10 points per game to 19, was getting the foul line more than he ever had, was finishing around the basket and not just relying as an off-ball catch-and-shoot 3-point shooter. His passing improved, and ability to generate offense had nearly doubled with his assist rate and assists per game, and he continued to maintain his strong 3-point shooting at a 37% rate from deep, but doing so on much higher volume than we've ever seen him do in the past. And while he didn't win the Most Improved Player of the Year award, even though he should have, he did finish as the runner-up behind Tyrese Maxey. And after that season, everyone said, okay, can the Bulls conceivably build with Coby White? Not build around, because he's not a superstar level player, but a player you can build with as a young player for the team for the future. Can he potentially become an all-star level player? But there was also some skepticism, some saying, well, was Coby just benefiting from being next to DeMar DeRozan, because DeMar commands so much focus and attention from defenses that it opened up a lot more opportunities and open looks for Coby to succeed. And because the Bulls moved away from DeMar, we wondered whether Coby would truly thrive in a world where he would be the team's primary focus on offense. Yes, Zach LaVine was going to be coming back. He was injured for most of the 23-24 season, which Coby also benefited from. But what happens when Coby becomes one of the Bulls' leading scoring options on offense and he's seeing double teams on a nightly basis, something he wasn't seeing before? Well, to start the season, those worst fears became true, because Coby did not look that great to start the year. Both him and Giddey, actually. To be honest, the only player that played well, or better than expected anyway, was Zach LaVine. And it's not like Coby was terrible to start the season, but it wasn't like what we saw from the previous year. His scoring numbers were there, but his efficiency was down. The shooting splits and true shooting percentage weren't great. His turnover numbers were up. And so you thought, all right, Coby isn't that guy. He's not going to be a guy that you can rely upon as a primary option on offense. And after Zach LaVine was traded, though, which meant even more responsibility for Coby on offense, we thought, or at least I did anyway, how's he going to handle this? Is he going to be able to handle the pressure of essentially being the Bulls' best scorer and be the go-to guy on offense? Well, wouldn't you know it, Coby would not only show up well in that role, but actually exceeded most of our expectations, at least mine anyway. Like, I certainly did not expect Coby to win Eastern Conference Player of the Month, the first Bulls player to win that award since DeMar DeRozan did back in the 21-22 season when he made All-NBA second team. I did not expect that he would take matters into his own hands and put up multiple 30-plus point scoring games and average 27 points per game in the final 20 games of the season, leading the Bulls to that 15-5 record that everyone likes to talk about. I did not expect that he would increase his ability to get to the foul line and have the highest free throw rate on the team to close out the season. I mean, you look at his shooting splits post All-Star break, and it's actually staggering. Near 50% from the field, 37% from three, 91% from the free throw line, and an insane 63% true shooting percentage on 24.5 points per game. Those are all-star level numbers, especially when you consider the fact that it was actually translating to wins for the Bulls in that stretch. Now, yes, it was March and April basketball. Yes, we know there were some teams that were not at full strength. Yes, the schedule overall was a bit softer during that time, but it was still regular season basketball. The Bulls did go up against teams that were trying to win, and they still beat them. And above all, they played well. Coby played well. They didn't play down to their competition, for the most part anyway. There were some games where they did. And they took care of business. Now, obviously, we're going to have to wait and see if not only what Coby was able to do at the end of last season, if that can be repeated, but if the Bulls as a team can replicate that to demonstrate that the performance we saw, that wasn't just an isolated thing in March and April, and prove us all doubters wrong that they're actually a decent team. But let's assume for a moment that Coby even maintains the level of play from last season, or even if it's slightly below that. Let's say he's a top 25 scorer in the NBA, a top 15 shooting guard in the league. Coby White next offseason is likely going to command something in the range of $30 to $35 million next season if we see that type of player. He wouldn't be wrong to think that if he can fetch that amount on the open market either, because there will be teams that will have cap space to sign him to that kind of deal. With the increase in salary cap, it would not be viewed as an astronomical amount for a player that can average between 22 to 25 points per game as a high-volume three-point shooter. And at that rate, I honestly think that's going to be a much more difficult and challenging decision for the Bulls, more so than anything they're having to deal with Josh Giddey's next contract, because Giddey's contract they have control over as a restricted free agent. They have control and leverage over the fact that teams don't have the cap space to even offer him a deal. With Coby, there is a world where if the Bulls think $35 million for Coby is too steep, especially when they have to pay Giddey a big contract as well, there is a world where Coby walks for nothing in free agency and they lose him for nothing. And so, of course, as we talked about this a few months back in the video, if Coby keeps up this level of play, but the Bulls still aren't at that level yet, where they're in a place to compete and make the playoffs or make meaningful run in the playoffs, do they trade Coby before the deadline while his value is high before running the risk of losing him in free agency or needing to pay him a big bag? I won't go into that here because I've already talked about the trade-offs between paying Coby versus trading him at length in past videos, but it is by far going to be the Bulls' toughest decision to choose from as we go into the season, and something that is going to be closely monitored all season long, especially if Coby breaks out even further and becomes an all-star. Now, me even bringing up this topic, this all stemmed from a recent article Hoops Hype put out of the top 15 shooting guards in the league right now. There have been other articles as well, and consensus across these is that Coby's a top 15 shooting guard in the NBA. Hoops Hype specifically having him at 12. Now, maybe you say, 12th shooting guard in the league? That's not that great. But when you're considered a top 15 player at any position in the league, it means you're viewed as a quality NBA starter. And it means, especially for younger players just entering their primes and you're already at that rate, you're going to be getting paid a good portion of a team's salary cap. Now, based on what we saw from Coby to finish out last season, I'd probably actually put him a little higher, around 9th or 10th best shooting guard in the NBA, but I get it. We also haven't seen Coby be able to perform at the highest level. He did not do well in the playing game last year. It's easy to be putting up numbers like this when you're on an average team versus doing this as a leader on a contending team. And until we see Coby do that, it's hard to put him in this category of a top 10 shooting guard in the NBA. But either way, the point is, Coby is getting the recognition around the league as a top player at his position. He's continued to get better with every passing season. He's far outplayed his current contract, and he's going to get paid handsomely in 2026. For the Bulls, they have to decide if it's going to be them that gives him that bag, or capitalize on his value in the form of a trade and let some other team foot the bill. We'll see how it all plays out in this upcoming season. I'm curious to hear what you guys think, though. You let me know in the comments. As always, be sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.